everybody. Good morning. It's good to see you. Look, I'm a little bit sick, so I might sound a little sick, and also the editing on this video might be just a little bare bones, but today we're going to be talking about the developer update that just dropped this morning as of March 24th, and I believe will probably be in PTB next week. This brings a huge nerf to perks like Dead Hard, to Call of Brine, to Overcharge, to the healing meta, as well as quite a few other things. It hits all aspects of DBD, and I think that I'd like for you to sit with me on this one. So let's go ahead and dive right in. First of all, let's go ahead and talk about some good quality of life changes we've wanted for a while, the Bloodweb. The big thing about the Bloodweb that has changed is there's actually a factor of changes. Most of us know that if you get 1 million or 2 million blood points, especially on rank reset days, you'll often find yourself spending blood points for 40 minutes or so just to, get rid of them so you can keep building them back up. So what they've done is a few things. They have what they call the Bloodweb chain. So you select a node that's further out from the center, and all the nodes leading up to it will be selected with just like one kind of button, which is interesting. You can do that. There's the automatic purchase button that allows you to press the center node. You have to be prestiged 1 already to be able to use this, but there's a center button, you press it, and then it just automatically picks whatever. As somebody who has like a P75 pyramid head, like I don't care what I get at this point, just give me anything. That would be a really nice feature. It helps people with repetitive stress injuries, and on console it's kind of annoying to go through the Bloodweb even more so. So this is interesting. You can also select a few nodes and then do the auto Bloodweb fill after that, I believe. So that's nice. You can go grab the perk you want and then fill the rest. And then there is press device, so they don't have to click and hold. So press mode, right now if you click and hold, and then it like has to tick up. But with the press to buy, you just press the button once and it just buys it. That's it. You don't have to like hold it or anything like that. Some other good quality of life changes are the visual terror radius. So this is actually in DBD mobile and has been in DBD mobile for a long time, but it's great that this is actually coming to the main game. So right now, and previously before Spine Chill was nerfed, a lot of people use Spine Chill and things like that if you were deaf or hard of hearing, and video games are for everybody. So I'm excited to see a visual terror radius indicator, and what this is the heartbeat. So what this kind of indicates is if a killer is nearby to you as a survivor, the heart in your survivor's chest will start to beat, and it'll get brighter and beat faster the closer the killer is. Now if the killer has a lullaby, so Freddy, Huntress, Trickster, Sadako, then there's sort of a haze that builds up inside of the survivor's chest, and this is really, really cool. The good news is this is an option. If you don't want this, you don't have to have it, though I think I'll run it just because I think it's a really cool looking feature. I think it makes the aesthetic of the game look really cool, and I like this. So this is a good deal. I like this. This also works with the colorblind settings as well. And then some quality of life updates to the Autohaven Reworks maps. These maps have been not a problem for me, but they have been some of the weirdest maps that have needed a rebalance for a long time. Gas Heaven having these long stretches of cars that are just, as a killer, you have to walk all the way around them. They're like the longest loops in the game. They're very frustrating to deal with if survivors are really smart about it. They're hard to mind game as most killers. But if you're like Nurse or Blight, you get around them really fast. So just kind of one of those disadvantages that like most killers have. And then there's Blood Lodge. Blood Lodge having really weird gen spawns, being so open with no line of sight blockers that survivors can see stealth killers coming from a mile away. It's probably one of my least favorite maps to ever play on as killer, just because of the way that there can either be a lot of densely packed pallets or absolutely nothing, and it's just such a mixed bag. So Blood Lodge is getting a layout change, which is going to be really nice. There will be a lot more, some line of sight blockers, but pallet density and sparsity will be a better balance, so that it won't be so sided towards survivors, in my opinion. So and then Gas Heaven, the car piles are going to be broken up into potential spawn locations for pallets, helping to reduce the potential for dead zones and things like that. So this is going to be really nice, and some of these changes will trickle out into other Autohaven maps. So I think this is good, going back and rebalancing maps that don't make sense. Hopefully they can rebalance Batum a little bit right now, because that map is just atrocious, and we'll see where that goes. So this is the big one that I think a lot of people are going to be really upset about. Healing is taking a really huge hit. I'm just going to read directly kind of what they wanted to talk about with regards to this, but Even if the killer is relentless, an extra health state can buy your team more time to work on generators. Having easy access to quick and plentiful heals can cause problems, particularly for high-skilled survivors who can evade the killer for quite some time. So yeah, I agree with those statements. As a killer player, like especially if you play Wraith or Ghostface or Sadako, like sort of a hit and run, like a normal like hit and run sort of play style. Hitting somebody and then being like, okay, I can't commit to this. I've broken 2 pallets. I just have to leave, and then that person heals in 10 seconds or so, 12 seconds, and they can do that 2 or 3 times. It means that if you never commit to them, the 40 seconds you spent are almost for nothing. They net you nothing besides a few broken pallets, but in some cases, like, you can't afford to do that in a match. You know, I had a match the other day as a knight, and you know, I hit a tap. He looped me really well for about 20-25 seconds, and I said I can't commit to this, and 3 different times he healed within 10 to 12 seconds. He had a medkit, he had double add-ons, he had built to last. Like, he knew what he was doing, right? And that kind of indicates, like, okay, we kind of know what's going on here. So they say an emergency medkit alone can heal the damage done after a long chase in roughly 10 seconds. This doesn't even begin to factor in all sorts of perks and add-ons which can speed up healing even further. Agreed. So for killers, this means that any chase that doesn't end with a hook, even if they manage to damage a survivor, can be completely undone in a matter of seconds. Keeping survivors injured and switching targets are often wise decisions, and with this in mind, we have a few changes in store for healing. So before we start complaining or groaning or whatever, I do want to talk about, like, one, I think this has been kind of a creeping problem for a really, really long time, and I think that if we don't adjust this now, I think we're going to find that killer abilities start tailoring towards and favoring something that may be more unhealthy in counter to this, the current, like, heal state, right? So, like, just by changing medkits, you find that, like, killers like Trickster that are really bad at splitting pressure might be a little bit easier. Like, you know, okay, I lacerated you, but it took a little bit, I'm going to bounce away, and you being able to heal is not quite as rough, so I don't feel as hindered by this, you know, stuff like that. This is overall a W. So they say first, healing will now take 24 seconds by default, previously 16 seconds. So this is a pretty big deal. Healing is going to take longer overall, and this is going to make some killers like Wraith feel a little annoying to go against, I think. This is also going to make perks like Sloppy Butcher hurt that much more, because Sloppy Butcher is a percentage of the base heal. So this is going to make, I think Sloppy Butcher right now is 20%, 25%. I think Sloppy Butcher's 25%. Mangled is 25%, I think. That would be 30-second heal with Sloppy, which, you know, maybe Sloppy gets changed. Maybe that math is wrong. Like I said, I'm sick. I don't know. But then they've rebalanced medkits across the board, which is really, really interesting. So all medkits now have 24 charges by default. You know, the emergency medkit and stuff like that had like 16 charges, but healed you much faster. And so people would run like double charge add-ons and built to last on that so they can get fast heals. So let's go through this. The camping aid medkit, Brown, increases the altruistic healing speed by 20%. We already knew that. The first aid kit increases the altruistic healing speed by 25%. This was 35, so these are just numeric changes. The emergency med kit increases the altruistic healing speed by 30%. It was 50, and it no longer increases the speed at which you heal yourself. So the emergency med kit used to be really fast for you. Now bringing the emergency med kit is more to help your team or just to give you a base heal. It's not really meant to give you this like super fast heal. I believe they haven't mentioned changing the add-ons, like specifically, like we don't know which add-ons they've really worked around, so this will be interesting. The Ranger Medkit increases the altruistic healing speed by 35%. It was 50. Increases skill check success zone by 10%. Increases great skill check zones by 10. And they say lastly, we've done a pass on medkit add-ons, bringing these which were overperforming in line with the rest. Add-ons which add more charges to your medkit have also been reviewed with the new healing time in mind, though it is now impossible for a medkit to fully heal a survivor more than twice in a match. And this is crazy. This is nice because being able to heal yourself with one medkit 3.5 times or something like that without Sloppy Butcher in play, that stuff was rough. It was, you know, the big thing about DBD is the more independent survivors become, the harder the game gets for the killer. And I think we need to think about this, you know, for survivors, you know, in some cases, survivor players are like, oh my gosh, you know, I need to heal because I might get tunneled, I might get camped, or, you know, things like that. But simultaneously, I think if killers are feeling less pressure to tunnel in camp, that they may do it less, and I'm being hopeful about that. Let's see what happens. So some perks were changed. Gearhead, when a survivor loses a health state, Gearhead activates for 30 seconds. While active, any survivor who hits a good skill check will have their aura revealed for 6, 7, 8 seconds. So this is actually an incredible perk now that gives you a lot of information. I think this is actually better than in some cases like barbecue and chili, right? Especially if you use Huntress or you use the Knight or something like that. If somebody takes a hit anywhere on the map, you can see where everybody else is at all times. And I think that's pretty potent and powerful. It doesn't mean you can get there and do something about it, but you know at least, which is interesting. I like that. Overzealous. Overzealous obviously is when you cleanse a totem, you get a bonus to your repair speed. If you cleanse a hex totem, you get a bigger bonus, but obviously cleansing totems means that people that use boons are at a disadvantage or are not your friend. So they've made it so Overzealous will activate when blessing a totem in addition to cleansing. So not a big change there. Scourge Hook Pain Resonance got gutted. So let's talk about Scourge Hook. This perk has gradually found its way back into the meta. To address this, we've given Scourge Hook Pain Resonance a slight rework. The perk starts with 4 tokens. The first time each survivor is hooked on a Scourge Hook, the generator with the most progress will explode and lose progress. So Pain Resonance is absolutely gutted, and the idea here is to encourage people to not tunnel, but I think what we're going to find is that people just don't run this perk anymore, which is deeply upsetting. But the idea here is now you have to hook each person 4 times to get value out of Pain Resonance, which would give you a net 60% off of a gen. And I don't know, realistically, when you look at it, Pain Resonance is going to become a supplementary perk like Jolt is. It's not going to be a main slowdown perk that I think people use. Maybe they continue to use it, but this is tough. I kind of wish there was a way to regenerate tokens by not tunneling or something like that, right? Or something of that nature, or it only activates if you hook a unique survivor. You know, I understand from a survivor perspective that if you down somebody, put them on a Scourge Hook, and then you camp it, and then you hook trade, and then you put someone else on a Scourge Hook, and then you just kind of keep doing that, you get that Scourge Hook value over and over and over. So like I get it, and to some degree, if a perk is ran in 70% of your games, maybe there is a reason to look at it. However, nothing, as we'll see later, has been really brought up to sort of help in the current meta. So this is interesting. So while healing and medkits have been nerfed, Pain Resonance is also pretty deeply cut into here. So Deadhard has received another deep cut here. Actually, I think Deadhard will become a perk that you see that just doesn't really get used much, which is going to shake the balance of the game in really hard ways. Deadhard, they said, already requires some precision to use, and further reducing the invulnerability window would make it far too unreliable and frustrating. So Deadhard has received a rework. Deadhard will activate after safely unhooking a survivor. When activated, press the active ability button while injured and running to gain the endurance status effect, and then become exhausted. Deadhard will deactivate when it successfully protects the user from damage. So this is really interesting. Right now, I will go ahead and say, like, as a killer player, Deadhard doesn't bother me much. I know, like, oh, you're not a true killer player. No, I literally just wait. It's not really that hard. I don't face that many survivors that are like Giga Chad waiting for 45-second players. It just doesn't happen, right? It's not the common rule. It's definitely an outlier. When it comes to Deadhard, I think the biggest thing here is that it's nerfing Deadhard means that people are going to be more likely to use Sprint Burst or Lithe or Overcome, and I think those perks hit a lot harder. They are less fun for people to use, and I think that's the thing about Deadhard is, like, people bring Deadhard not because it's like strong, because it is risky. It's not a free health state. If people want to talk about it like it's a free health state, then you go get value out of it every single game. You won't. At the end of the day, it is dicey to use it, and you do have to put yourself in the right position at the right time to guarantee value, and that is the choice. Yeah, Sprint Burst, Lithe, guaranteed value almost every time. Like I would say, well, I can't say guaranteed. 95% of the time, you'd have to colossally mess up to not get value. So I think if we start seeing more Lithe than Sprint Burst, I think we're going to start complaining a lot more, because those perks kind of suck to go against way more than Deadhard ever could. This is a crazy gut. I think it is a bit cutting some corners. I think Ots had some more unique suggestions regarding if the survivor is within like 2 meters of the killer for 2 seconds, then it deactivates. I think that was a more interesting change, but I don't know, maybe this is a more healthy change, encouraging people to unhook each other to get value out of their perk. We'll see. Now we move on from the survivor nerf to a killer nerf. Call of Brine quickly rose in popularity following the meta shakeup last year, granting a large increase to the regression rate of generators. It's not uncommon for a generator to fully regress once a survivor is chased away. To tone down its power, we've reduced the additional regression speed to 125 at tops, and it was 200. So this is a crazy gut. This is it's not necessarily bad. Look, if you're a killer player, I understand that this could be frustrating to you. There's a few things that killer players you gotta stop doing, right? If you see a survivor on a gen that's like 50-60% and they start to run away, you kick the gen and then you start chasing, bad practice, right? That survivor makes 15 seconds of distance while you're kicking a gen in some cases, right? Like, so one, like, Call of Brine shouldn't necessarily be a perk that you get to kick and then start chasing somebody and it regresses all the way. 125 is I think it's a little low, but this is kind of similar to what we saw with Hex Ruin. Hex Ruin was brought down to 100%, and Hex Ruin's basically useless now, unless you're running like specific killers that can defend totems and things like that. So Call of Brine, this is a deep cut. Is it an unnecessary cut? Not necessarily. Call of Brine's a great perk, but the best way to keep survivors from getting gens done is to keep them on hooks and to keep them busy. And so I think with the gen kick meta, I think with Overcharge, Eruption, Brine, all of them seeing deep cuts, I think we've seen that killers have become a little bit more brain dead in some ways and have had some more war of attrition type tactics where it's like, if I can keep regressing things long enough, eventually there won't be enough resources and I will get downs. I will catch somebody making a mistake. I will hold this until my dying breath. And I think that that's not necessarily healthy. We've talked before about how previously you had to earn your slowdown perks. Jolt, Scourge Hook, Pop. Minus Ruin, which Ruin was cleansable, and things like that. Deadlock, which only gives you limited value. Previously the killers wouldn't just walk up to a gen and we called it dry kicking. They wouldn't walk up to a gen and just kick it and just be like, all right, now I get to start chase because this gen's going to go all the way to 0. Like, they knew that gen was hardly going to regress while they were in chase. It didn't make sense. They knew they had to stay in chase and they had to down people. And there were people that still would dry kick, but generally people knew it was a bad practice. But now people initiate chase by kicking gens. I think this whole meta has really sort of given some brain rot to killer gameplay, and I'm excited for this change to happen. And moving on into Overcharge, we'll talk about that a little bit more. So to bring it in line with other perks, we reduced the maximum regression speed to 130. It was 200%. This would make it take longer for the regression rate to become beneficial. So at the same time, we've increased the starting regression speed to 85% to sort of offset it. I think the kick meta needed to go. So Dead Hard got gutted. Medkits got gutted. I think these kind of need to be gutted too. Everything's kind of being toned down. We're seeing the extremes kind of being brought in line a little bit more here. So, and we're going to see that with the next one. This is going to make some people mad. Boon, Circle of Healing. This perk has become the jack of all trades of healing perks. Not only does it allow you and your fellow survivors to heal without a medkit, but it increases the speed of healing across the board. Going forward, Boon, Circle of Healing will no longer allow survivors to heal without a medkit. Instead, it will provide a 40, 45, 50% healing speed bonus to healing others. This bonus will not apply to healing done with a medkit. Additionally, the auras of injured survivors within the Boon's range will be revealed to other survivors. So I think that this is good. So when Michaela came out, the game got thrown into a weird state. One person could bring one Boon, and survivors... one person could bring one Boon, and all the survivors could get value from it. When I Swift with friends, when I play pubs, if somebody has a Boon, those games are easier by definition. They are just instantly easier, because if I chase a person, if I hit them, if I break a pallet, if I do anything, then and I'm like, okay, I got to break away. I'm chasing in a dead zone. I'm chasing for too long. I need to get back to kind of putting pressure in the smart places. The person goes to a Boon and they heal while their survivor teammates stay on gens. If survivor teammates unhook, it was easy for me to be like, okay, you go heal at the Boon. I'm going to get back on my gen. Bada bing, no problem. It was really easy for survivors to become independent. It was really easy for survivors to become independent, and if survivors are independent, then that is harder for the killer. And I'm not saying that like killer is so hard. I think it's never been a better time to play as killer, but we have to talk about that in the context of like the perks we have at our disposal and things like that. But when it comes to Circle of Healing, you know, when I lost my night win streak at 46 wins, we had 2 slugs on the ground. We could have had a 3rd slug, but people went and reset in the Boon in separate locations, right? And they didn't heal each other, they didn't group up. So that's the biggest thing that killers you really want, is you want survivors to group up. You want them to feel like they need to heal each other, like they need to be teammates in a team game, not just off doing their own individual activities to progress a team objective. Oh, I need to find a teammate. I need this, I need that. And so I don't know. I think this is a good change. I think that this is a proportional change to Call of Brine and Overcharge. And I want to say that like that is like a really important thing here, is like, yes, killers, we've been cut deep with Call of Brine and Overcharge being gone. They're not perks that I use much. Scourge Hook being gone is really painful, I'm not gonna lie to you. But Circle of Healing and Dead Hard being changed drastically, it does shake up these metas quite a bit here, on both sides. These are proportional changes. I think that killer is still going to be fairly easy to play, easier than it used to be. So now we're seeing some updates to killers. We're really going to talk about the Hillbilly because that is a big one. There are no mentions of the twins. I'm going to go ahead and put that out there. But so for the Hillbilly, the overheat mechanic is being adjusted but not removed. So the amount of heat generated from both starting to rev and continuing to rev has been dramatically reduced. Right now, I think it's like if you start to rev, your heat jumps up like 10% or 15%. So if you you walk through a pallet and you fake the rev so that the survivor doesn't throw it, 10% heat. What? Are you kidding? You know, when Billy's intended gameplay mechanics are to be used to curve at short loops, and he gets punished so hard for faking it or trying to get closer, like, it's wild to me. So they say this makes the overheat mechanic almost a non-factor when used in loops and over short distances, much akin to how he used to play. Just as before, heat will begin to dissipate as soon as the chainsaw sprint ends, meaning most of your heat generated from a short sprint will already be gone by the time your chainsaw is ready for another attack. However, chainsaw sprinting, long chainsaw sprints, will give you more heat over time. So if you're crossing the map a ton with it, and that's all you're kind of doing or whatever, you'll find that you are generating a lot more heat. So in some cases, a proportional change. I'm not sure. We'll see how this pans out. It seems like a Billy buff in a lot of ways, so we'll find out. Doom engravings and death engravings have been changed. They provide less movement speed than before and increase heat generation further. So those add-ons were completely killed, it seems like. That's what that reads. The pig, the Oni, the nightmare, the executioner, and the clown are all getting some small add-on change. Really, I'm gonna zoom in on this real quick. The Executioner Scarlet Egg add-on increases the duration of Killer Instinct inflicted by Rites of Judgment by 1.5 seconds. This doesn't provide much value since Killer Instinct only updates its position periodically. To make it meaningful, we've increased this bonus to 3 seconds. Nobody ever, period, ever, has used Killer Instinct for meaningful tracking. I do not. His add-ons are so atrocious. I don't understand this. Nobody, like Legion, uses Killer Instinct for tracking for approximations of locations. Pyramid Head is not. We are not using Pyramid Head's ability for that. I do not why is it that? Why change this add-on? If somebody gets hit with a Rites of Judgment attack, their aura is revealed for 6 seconds. Or if somebody gets hit with the punishment, like change this ability. Change this add-on. Make it so that if a survivor is hit with the punishment of the damned, their aura is revealed for 6 seconds. Make it like the glowing concoction. It would be beneficial. It would be useful. It would be better than just running double range all of the time. I do not understand. And while you're at it, make it so that there's an eerie that if somebody uncages somebody else, the person who's doing the uncaging becomes tormented, so that the torment kind of continuously passes off to somebody, right? Instead of like just going away. Like come on. What is wrong? What is going on? I'm so, like, his add-ons are arguably the worst in the game. Jesus, Lord help us. Anyway, so they are nerfing flashlights to some degree. So they are removing the mechanics that flashlights have against all killers, really. So this means that the artist, you will no longer be able to burn the crows with a flashlight flashbang. The wraith, you won't be able to burn him with a flashlight or flashbang. It's same with the nerfs. And then the hag, they've made it so that hag traps aren't destroyed by flashlights. You have to actually crouch up to the trap and like dismantle it like you would a trapper trap. And this is an interesting change. It makes the hag considerably more powerful and more fun. It also means that survivors aren't just gonna like click their flashlight and burn out a trap mid chase, which makes the hag just like, I think, more interesting. I don't know that I would have gone this way necessarily. I would have increased the amount of time it takes to burn out a trap and then added interactions. I think, like I said, the night, it would be nice if survivors could burn the guards out of chasing a teammate or something of that nature. I think you could make flashlights powerful. Look, if we're looking at the lore of the game, we're in the entity's realm. Light is the thing the entity does not like, but the entity gives generators to survivors so that they have a hope of repairing, so that they have the potential escape in their future as the entity feeds on that potential hope, on those emotions and things like that. And so having the flashlights in the game to dispel the darkness and to like counter, I think that just made a lot of sense. It was cool lore wise. I don't know, the Wraith is really annoying to play against anyway, so I like to flashlight burn him anytime I can. If he lets me do it, that's on him. So I don't know, this is strange. I'm up and down on it. The hag changes make sense, but also you could have gone a different way, and I think flashlight mechanics, or make it so that toolbox can snap trapper traps, and that's the only way to snap trapper traps, right? Because like right now, somebody can come up and poke a trapper trap and then walk away and be like, ha 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 ha, but like they should just make it so that if you poke one without a toolbox, you are damaged. But if you have a toolbox, you can poke one and it snaps and you don't take damage. Like, I think there should be other ways of wasting survivor items instead of just their intended uses. And I don't know, this feels weird. I don't like this. I'm calling it. I don't like it. And then they talk about the Deep Rift and beyond. So late last year, a deeper level of the Rift was revealed, allowing players who had already reached tier 70 to go above and beyond and continue progressing to earn alternate versions of outfits. Starting with the Tools of Torment mid-chapter update, this Deep Rift will feature unique visuals to better differentiate the bonus Deep Rift tiers. As for tomes, you may notice a new trend emerging where the most recent chapter's lore is expanded in the following tome. It's no coincidence. This is something we'll be doing for all new original chapters moving forward. This will allow us to expand further on the most recently introduced character's lore in a more natural and exciting way. Except you guys haven't done anything for the Deathslinger or Zarina, or I think Hattie. I don't know, just, you guys still missing some stuff. Licensed chapters, meanwhile, may be an exception to this. While we would love to expand upon their stories, as we've done in the past with Ghostface and Bill, licensed characters come from franchises of their own with their own stories to tell. Therefore, the tomes following licensed chapters may feature existing original characters. So I think maybe the tome we get after the anniversary event, assuming the anniversary is a license, we'll go back and talk about Deathslinger or Zarina or something like that. So these were huge changes. This was a lot. This was meta shifts on both sides. This was dead hard and healing being gutted, and this was free gen kicking being gutted. What are your feelings on all of this? Be honest, but be respectful. If you can't be respectful, you'll be removed. We keep it easy and simple here, all right? Thank you guys for hanging out. Be sure that you check out our Twitch stream. We are doing boot camps live on Twitch tonight while I am sick. I know, it's crazy. And I'll be praying to the entity to see you guys in the next video. Get some water, you filthy sons of guns.